So today, a friend of mine has very kindly let me borrow his 1971 Chevrolet truck. I'm not that clued up on American vehicles, but from what I can gather, it is basically a Chevrolet C20, but it's known as a custom deluxe. So it's slightly different to the standard ones. In what way, I'm not sure. This is the second time I've actually borrowed it. Both times I've had to rush straight to the petrol station, because when you've got an empty light on a 5.7 V8, you can't be too careful. And this is the reading after putting 30 litres in, so it looks like we've got a 50 or 60 litre tank. Not quite enough. I didn't manage to record the other day because it ended up being quite close to the time to pick my son up from school, and I wanted to use the car for that. And as it had low fuel, I had to rush straight to the petrol station. And then you've got to consider, this is the first time I've driven a left-hand drive car on the left-hand side of the road, and then you've got this stick shift. This really is quite an experience, and felt quite funny. And I took a look at my Fitbit and saw that my heart rate was 130. So a lot of adrenaline going. I did recently have a 1983 Porsche 924, and this is a good 12 years older, but obviously a lot more powerful and a lot more American. What we've got is a 3-speed manual, which is operated on the steering column. Right now we're in 3rd gear. To concentrate so much. So push it back and lift it up for 2nd. I'll go through that in a second. So for this stick shift, if we pull it forward and down, and we've got 1st gear, forward and up would be reverse. So from 1st to 2nd, we have to pull it forward and down, and then push it back and up, and then for 3rd, keep it pushed back and pull it down, which makes the gap between 1st and 2nd quite a long way when you're trying to go quickly, if possible. Fortunately, having so much power, pretty much only need to be in 3rd gear. The car does have power steering, which is really light, very, very light, but we have got a massive steering wheel. You might notice that I am pretty close to the steering wheel. There is no adjustment on the seat, so how a larger person would fit in here, I'm not sure. I'm very close to the steering wheel. careful with the brakes. If you use them like a modern car, they're either on or off. They'll lock up very easily. So try and slow down through the gears. It's not always that simple. They do lock up rather easily. Surprisingly enough, despite how wide it feels, it does fit in normal parking spaces, so it's actually not as wide as a modern vehicle. It just feels huge. And we're on the left-hand side of the car, so it's kind of difficult to judge where the other side is. And obviously we've got a bench seat, so we've got so much distance between us and the passenger that you think that it must be much bigger than a UK car. Now I picked this car up a couple of days ago with the intent of recording, but I was in too much of a rush to record anything, and then later in the day we went out with the owner and did a say 0 to 60 of a sort, and immediately after the car cut out completely. When you look at these old engines, old vehicles, I'm not clued up on them. I know a lot more about modern vehicles, but there's not very much to go wrong, especially with something like this 5.7 V8. You're not going to get internal engine damage. They'll run 5 times more power than they actually have without any modifications internally. So you've only really got to look at fuel, spark and air. And what had actually happened was the condenser had failed. This is quite a unique example in the sense it's a custom deluxe rather than a standard C20, and it's actually only on just under 66,000 miles. It's quite unusual, especially the ones that we get across here, to see one that's not actually done any work. So this one has, as far as you can tell, been looked after since new and not used as a work vehicle. It got so warm that I had to give up recording, and you don't realise how windy it is until you try recording outside. So it's quite windy outside, can't really do much of a walk around while talking. Got the centre of the steering wheel missing, so it does have a horn. This fan is on full blast right now, and you can either have it on the windscreen about there and there, or on the floor here. Don't seem to be any other vents. I've only just picked Bonnie up, so she's alright for the time being. Working cigarette lighter, glove box. What do the wash wipe lights button here. So this turns the side lights and the headlights on, but to operate the full beam, to switch between main beam and dip beam, there's actually a button on the floor. Parking brake is a pedal. Hazard warning lights indicate stalk. Indicators actually do work, at least according to the dashboard. A bench seat, but we only appear to have 2 seat belts. I did pick my son up from school the other day. I looked up the legal requirements. I didn't think it had seat belts because they were tucked under the seats, but you can't carry a child under the age of 3 in a car that it doesn't have a seat belt fitted. Over 3, you can carry them in the rear of a vehicle that doesn't have seat belts fitted, which I found a little bit odd. Which wouldn't work for this vehicle because there is no rear. But then we found the seat belts tucked behind the seat, so managed to put a child seat in and was all fine. It's quite funny because obviously the exhaust is loud, but it's so far to the rear of the vehicle that from the cab you don't really get to hear it at all. Hoping that the wind noise isn't too much and you can hear me, otherwise I'll have to re-record the sound. Another reason that this is possibly an individual example is it has a long bed, so more commonly you do see the shorter bed versions of these, and also it's a step side, but it's the more modern shape body. And this one being a C20, I think that the C20 means that it can carry 3/4 of a ton. I'm not sure. There will definitely be people that will find this video that will know a hell of a lot more about American vehicles than I do. This is my first encounter really. The first extended drive in a V8, although I am actually collecting my own V8 at the end of this month as a permanent car. I'm looking forward to that. I don't have much experience recording videos like this, but rather than not record anything at all, I thought it'd be better to do at least share my experience. Maybe one day I will be able to do videos more like this, and most of the videos that I do are how-to, working on cars, things like that. Share the experience with other people, and hopefully it's nice for some lovers of these sort of vehicles to see that they're still being driven about and cherished over in England as well. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing this vehicle as much as I have experiencing it for the day, and fingers crossed I'll have more interesting vehicles to show off in the future. And thanks for watching.